The rain was a steady drumbeat against the massive glass panels of the corporate tower. Inside, however, the air was still and thick with unspoken tension. In a high-tech conference room, Daniel Hartman, the company's CEO, stared at a wall of live surveillance feeds. On one of the screens, his mother, Eleanor, her silver hair hidden under a red scarf, was mopping the marble floors of the very building she had helped him build. No one else in that room knew the truth. To them, she was just an old, invisible cleaner. She was just an old woman to be ignored, to be looked down on. Daniel had sent his mother on this secret mission with a heavy heart. He was desperate to find out if the rumors were true. He feared a toxic culture was festering beneath the polished, corporate surface of his billion-dollar company. But before we get deeper into the story, if you believe in the power of kindness, in second chances, and in treating every single person with dignity, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel, Tales by Nanya. Your support is what allows us to keep sharing stories that truly matter. Eleanor had been hesitant at first. The thought of hard, physical labor at her age was daunting. But she saw the deep pain in her son's eyes, the shame and disappointment he felt about his own company. Seeing his pain, she agreed to help. For weeks, Daniel had heard whispers of mistreatment, of arrogance, and cruelty from his top executives. He had heard about a culture where the bottom line was all that mattered and human decency was an afterthought. The problem wasn't just about profit margins anymore. It was about humanity. Eleanor's heart ached for her son, ached that he was forced to doubt the very people he had once trusted. Now, as she scrubbed floors and emptied trash cans, she was seeing the ugly truth firsthand. The first few days of her mission were disheartening. She was invisible. She watched as young, sharply dressed managers strutted past her, not even bothering to give her a glance. Some even tossed crumpled paper onto a floor she had just finished cleaning. The dismissive glances, the sarcastic jokes about her age, and the whispered insults hurt more than the physical work. Each night, she went home exhausted, her body aching, tears threatening to spill. But she held on, knowing that Daniel needed to see what she saw with his own eyes. One afternoon, while she was wiping down the executive wing, Eleanor overheard a conversation that felt like a knife to her heart. She heard a group of department heads laughing about how even the help is replaceable, and joked about cutting janitorial staff to save money. It wasn't just the words. It was the venom in their voices that shook her. Eleanor's hands trembled, and she had to fight the urge to confront them. She stayed calm, took mental notes, and later that evening, she shared everything with Daniel. The more she revealed, the darker the picture became. The people he trusted the most were the ones destroying his company from within. Watching his mother endure such humiliation was almost too much for Daniel. He felt a mix of rage and an overwhelming sense of guilt. But he knew that patience was crucial. They needed undeniable proof to make a stand. He asked the security team to enhance the surveillance cameras and gave them strict instructions not to intervene unless someone's safety was in danger. He couldn't risk blowing her cover. It wasn't long before things started to escalate. One rainy morning, Eleanor arrived early to clean the main conference room. As she was mopping the floor, the senior management team burst in, arguing loudly about a delayed project. Seeing her there, one of them, a man named Victor, sneered. In a cruel display of power, he deliberately knocked his coffee cup over, letting the dark, hot liquid spill across the table and onto the pristine floor. Without apology, he just looked at her and said, "Go on, earn your pay." Humiliated but composed, Eleanor silently cleaned the mess as the executives laughed. It was the lowest moment yet, but the breaking point came later that same day. During a small staff celebration, Victor walked up to Eleanor, who was quietly cleaning nearby. He grabbed a glass of water and, in a cold, mocking gesture, poured it over her head as she knelt cleaning. The room, instead of reacting with shock, erupted in laughter. Tears welled in Eleanor's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She stood, her dignity intact, and walked away in silence, her heart shattering inside. She refused to give them the satisfaction of seeing her cry. She was not a victim. She was a soldier on a mission. Watching this unfold live on his screen, Daniel could no longer contain his fury. The next morning, he summoned all staff to the main auditorium. With the entire company present, he played the surveillance footage on a massive screen. A collective gasp filled the room as employees watched the disgraceful and cruel behavior toward the old cleaner. The laughter, the insults, and the final act of pouring water on her head. It was all there, clear as day. Daniel walked onto the stage, his voice shaking with emotion. He revealed the truth. The woman they had mocked, ignored, and humiliated was his own mother. The room fell into a stunned silence. Faces turned pale, and eyes dropped to the floor in shame. Daniel, fighting back tears, spoke not about business or profits but about compassion, respect, and the kind of culture he wanted his company to embody. He announced immediate dismissals for those directly involved in the abuse, regardless of their position or rank. Victor and several others were escorted out under the silent, watchful gaze of their peers. The atmosphere in the company shifted overnight. Departments underwent intensive training on empathy and respect. Daniel personally met with every staff member, ensuring open channels for grievances and promoting a new culture of kindness. Eleanor, though shaken by her ordeal, stood proud beside her son. Her quiet bravery had exposed the darkness that had crept into his company and helped him rebuild it on a foundation of respect. In the end, Daniel and Eleanor reminded everyone of a simple, powerful truth. Titles, money, and power mean nothing without basic human decency. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Tales by Nanya. And please leave a comment below. We want to know how you would have reacted if you were in that office that day. We read every single one of your messages, and they truly inspire us to keep sharing stories like this.